Hi, and welcome to the second of these Excel tutorial videos. This time we'll be looking at the if functions and the related functions AVERAGEIF and AVERAGEIFS. The if function basically lets you set a criteria for something to look for. I guess it's kind of hard to describe, so I'll just kind of jump right into the example. As you can see, we have a series of reaction times, and reaction times are something we use often here at the PAtt lab. And if you're looking at it, you see some kind of wonky things, like you have a value of 1.56, 4, and 105. These are in milliseconds, so anything kind of past 1 tends to be a red flag. So we want to figure out which ones of these are and which ones aren't. In this case, it's easier to look at, but say you have 600 trials, that's just the pain. So what you do is you do equals if, and then you open the parentheses. And as you can see, you want a logical test, a value of true, and a value of false. A logical test basically is any math function. So in this case, we want this specific cell, A2, to be less than 1. Because if it's greater than 1, we're assuming that the participant just wasn't paying attention or anything. So if it's less than 1, we'll put a comma there. Now, for a value, it's true. If it's true, we want it to just return the reaction time, since that's what we're interested in. Now if it's false, what we're going to do is just have it return an X. And now every time you're adding kind of letters or numbers that don't quite fit in with the whole equation system, you always want to put those quotation marks, otherwise Excel will get angry at you and tell you there's a big error. So as you can see, I had quotation marks with an X in between, and that should be good. So now I close the parentheses, and then it returns a value because it's under 1. Now, you're wondering how you can do this for this entire list of numbers without having to just retype it. Well, the magic of Excel lets you just click this little tiny black square here and just drag down, and it'll update the equation as it goes. Eventually, we'll talk about how to lock some of these things in place, but right now, it's a nice little thing to know. And as you can see, these three values return the next since they are above 1. So now you want to average all these, and yes, the if step is kind of unnecessary if you specifically look into average specific things because of the AVERAGEIF function. So as you can see, you need a range, a criteria, and an average range. So our average range is, of course, the reaction times. Now our criteria in this case, it has to be less than 1, much like the if function. Now you see average range, sometimes that's, if the criteria you're looking for is in a different column, you'll have to set the average range to the actual numbers that you want to look at. But in this case, since our criteria is within the same numbers, we don't have to do anything, and we can just close that parentheses. And there you go. Now say you want to do something a little more elaborate. Say you're looking at this list and you think that 0.245 is a little too fast. So you want to kind of get rid of those and get rid of the high numbers. So what you do is you're going to do an AVERAGEIFS function. This basically lets you add more criteria as you go. So the average range, that's the actual range of numbers that we're looking at. So that's going to be our original column, so we'll select that. Put a comma there, and criteria range. Unlike the just normal AVERAGEIF function, we have to set a criteria range each time. So we'll just select the column of numbers again, since that's where we're looking for the criteria, and then another comma. And then the criteria is going to be that it has to be less than 1, like last time. We do that. And now for our criteria range 2, we once again select the column, comma, and this time it has to be greater than 0.250. So then we put quotation marks on that, close it, and there's that. Now I'm going to show you what you need to do if your criteria is in a different column. So let me just add a column here. Sure, why not? So let's just say you have a random criteria here. And for our purposes, it's just going to be letters because it's easier. So say that this time you want to average the same range of numbers, so anything above 0.25 and below 1, but this time you only want to look at those with a random criteria of A. So what you'll do is average ifs, select your average range, in this case it's the values, the numbers, and then set up the whole thing as you did for the first average if that we did. So less than 1, greater than 0.25. And then for the third criteria range, we're going to select the random criteria column, since that's what we're looking at for our specific criteria. And then the criteria 3, which in this case will just be, we want the letter A. So we put that in quotation marks, and then we close it. And there it is. And that is the average of the reaction times for random criteria A, and that are above 0.25 and below 1 second. So as you can see, you can do a lot of things, and you can set up an endless list of criteria using the AVERAGEIFS function. As far as I know, there is no limit, but I'm sure once you get to 1,000 or so, it'll probably get mad at you. But that's about it for this video. Hopefully we'll start doing a couple more, since these seem to be working out pretty well. So there we go.